Carl Jung is said to have uncovered a terrifying truth about narcissists that most people are completely unaware of. When a narcissist realizes that you are no longer under their control, they do not simply walk away. Instead, they may deploy an extremely destructive and manipulative tactic that can undo years of personal healing in just weeks. If you fail to recognize it, you can easily fall into their trap. But before explaining this final dirty trick, it is important to understand the psychological struggle that leads up. Jung is often paraphrased as saying that a narcissist's greatest fear is not rejection or abandonment. Their real fear is encountering someone who becomes psychologically stronger than they are. According to Jung's work on the shadow self, narcissists project their own weaknesses onto others in order to maintain an illusion of superiority. When you begin healing, setting boundaries, becoming emotionally stable, and refusing to play their psychological games, a major shift occurs in the narcissist's inner world. Some interpretations call this a reversal of power crisis. From that moment on, things change dramatically. Narcissists do not simply look for someone to love them. They seek someone whose energy they can drain and whose behavior they can control. Jung's psychological observations are often summarized as describing a condition of inflated ego, where the person must constantly prove their superiority to avoid confronting an internal sense of emptiness. When you are uncertain, seeking approval, or emotionally dependent, you unconsciously played the role they needed a source of validation. You functioned as their emotional supply, their confirmation system. But the moment you begin to regain your power, stop seeking their approval, trust your instincts, and act independently, you become a threat to their identity. At that point, according to Jungian interpretations of projection dynamics, they may shift strategies. Instead of only criticizing you, they begin to attack the very strengths you have developed. They might say things like, "You've changed. You used to be different." Not in a good way. "You've become selfish. Success has gone to your head. Do you think you're better than everyone now?" What makes this especially insidious is that the criticism is not random. It is often directed precisely at the qualities you worked hardest to develop. If you learned to set boundaries, they call you cold. If you found your voice, they label you aggressive. If you gained confidence, they call you arrogant. This is often described in popular Jung-inspired discourse as shaming strength, making you feel guilty for the very traits that set you free. When this fails, another tactic may appear: nostalgia manipulation. They may bring up the old you. "You used to laugh at my jokes. You were happier before all this self-improvement. I miss the way you used to be. Things were better before you changed." The psychological goal is to pull you back into an earlier version of yourself, one that was easier to influence. They are not truly missing you, but rather the version of you that was more controllable. If both shame and nostalgia fail, the narrative escalates to something more emotionally charged: manufactured vulnerability or strategic fragility. At the exact moment you become stronger, they may suddenly appear as though they are in crisis. Emotional breakdowns, financial problems, health issues, family emergencies, sudden desperation. This can feel coincidental, but in this interpretation, it is framed as strategic timing designed to re-engage your empathy and pull you back into a caretaker. Sometimes, they may even contribute to or exaggerate their own problems, consciously or unconsciously, in order to trigger your protective instinct. The most dangerous part is that these situations can feel genuinely real. The narcissist may know exactly what kind of crisis will activate your compassion and override your boundaries. They might say, "I know you usually wouldn't do this, but I really need you. Just this once, please help me. I have no one else." Each just this once is designed to weaken the psychological boundaries you have built. From this perspective, manipulation is not about needing help, it is about proving they still matter in your emotional world and regaining influence over. Jung-inspired interpretations often call this compassion exploitation, using your empathy as a tool against your own growth. The critical idea here is that your empathy is not the problem, but feeling responsible for fixing them. A healthier distinction is often described as differentiated compassion. You can understand someone's struggle without being responsible for solving. In this framework, the key question becomes, does helping this person support my growth, or does it pull me back into an old version of myself? The deeper psychological insight attributed to Jung is that narcissists are not necessarily attracted to your weakness, they are threatened by your strength, because your growth reflects what they have avoided in themselves. When you refuse to shrink yourself to make others comfortable, you are not just setting boundaries, you are demonstrating that authenticity is possible without manipulation or control. And that, in this narrative, high resistance triggers escalate. Each time you recognize manipulation and refuse to engage, you are not only protecting yourself, you are also proving that their control was never absolute. Ultimately, the central message of this interpretation: manipulation only works when it is not recognized. Once you can identify it, name it, and still choose your authentic self, its power begins to dissolve. And from that point of view, the final trick only works if you forget who you are. Because once you see it clearly as a last attempt to regain control, it loses its authority, and your freedom becomes non-negotiable.